Welcome to the Your Leadership Legacy podcast. My name is Paulus Krause, and I'm so excited to bring you this next podcast dedicated to you high performers out there who want to reinvent yourself, reinvent your business, maybe your career, all of it. This podcast is all about being dedicated to transformation and being the best possible leader of yourself and others that you can be in order to create a legacy that lives on. Welcome to Your Leadership Legacy. My name is Paulus Krause. I am the founder and CEO of True You Teams. And here we go. Hey everyone, welcome to Your Leadership Legacy. My name is Paulus Krause, and I'm super excited today. We have Christian Boucousis on the call today. Did I get it right? Yes.
Yeah, you nailed it.
I know, that's amazing.
Tell everyone about the practice session plan.
I know, we had to wait a couple extra minutes so I could practice, but it's all good. So welcome, Boo, to the show. It's really, really great to hear you. I was reading some of your background, and it's so extensive, and I can't wait to talk to you about leadership and all the good stuff. So introduce yourself for us and give us a little bit of background around who Boo is.
Boo.
Who's Boo?
Yeah, just Boo. Well, you can see why everyone just calls me Boo, and it's a name that was foisted upon me when I first joined the Air Force, the Australian Air Force. You might be able to guess from my accent, which was almost 30 years ago when I was 19, pretty much right out of school. My trade is fighter pilot or pilot. That was my qualification, and nearly 20 years ago, I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease, which is called ankylosing spondylitis or disorder. And that was the end of my fighter pilot career. And the last 20 years, I've been in business, initially in the Middle East, building a humanitarian projects business, then into property, building innovative high-rise structures, into publishing for a little while, in aviation, and then probably most relevant to today's conversation, 10 years ago, discovered a company called Afterburner, which is a bunch of fighter pilots using the way that we work, the way that we think, and helping businesses with that. And I took over a license for Australia and Asia, and then acquired the business last year and moved to the US. And here I am in Miami. Running.
I know, I love the backdrop. It's amazing. That's no fake backdrop right there.
That's the real one. Don't look at the windows. They need a wash.
Yeah.
But that's how you can tell it's real, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So you talk about being a fighter pilot, and now that's part of kind of the group and the business that you're in right now. What was it about being a fighter pilot that led you into the leadership realm of things? You mentioned how you work, so I'm so curious about that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was just having a conversation with someone earlier today around performance, around living an intentional life. And I think for some people, and I count myself as one of these, very fortunately, unconsciously end up living an intentional life. And for me, that started when I was 5, when I went to my very first air show and saw fighter jets flying around, and very impressionable at that age. When you see these machines that are very loud, very fast, have the burning smell of jet fuel, the humans that interface with this machinery are all dressed in funny green clothes and patches, and they wear helmets and oxygen masks. I mean, the whole world is just so, off-world, and no doubt reinforced at that time for me was when Star Wars and The Empire Strikes Back and all those were coming out. So, when you're 5 years old and you're still struggling with reality and the pretend world, I'm probably still struggling with that now. It made an impression, and I think there's something to that where you have a visceral experience. It kind of etches a mark, and a lot of fighter pilots had that similar experience when they were very young. And you don't really, you want to be a fighter pilot, but you just kind of feel like you're going to be one, like it's just who you're meant to be,
Sure.
and you just do a lot of stuff to get there. And so it was a 16-year journey. So from the age of 5 to 21, when I flew a fighter jet by myself with one seat in it, it was a long pathway. And there's a lesson in that as well, I think, in terms of fulfilling an intentional life. And then, a lot of that career, 11 years of flying, you don't really think about, what you've learned apart from flying an airplane, just everything else that comes with it. But from day one, as you look back on it, and when you become conscious of it, and for me, being conscious of the journey was something that I only really had about 10 years ago, or started. I'm still getting my head around it. I'm starting to get really clear on it now. But the system built an intentional model, and it built an intentional model because of the throughput of human beings in a training program that was very deliberately only 18 months. So it created a system where you have to demonstrate probably the steepest learning curve out of any profession on earth. I mean, for the complexity of what you do.
Yeah.
So we understand implicitly that growth, what you would call growth and what personal development calls growth as an individual, we call that learning curves. And to grow as a human, and if you want to grow faster, you need an accelerated learning curve.
Sure.
So we look at the system where you start with a dream. So you look at self-development, self-actualization, living an intentional life. You start with a dream. So the dream's to become a fighter pilot, but you have to become one. It's not enough just to want to be one. And becoming one is incredibly hard. Like, it's really, really hard. It's a lot of work. It's very stressful. Your career can literally end on a day-by-day basis. You have one bad mission, you get a rerun. You have another one, you're out. So the whole thing is, and you talk to most fighter pilots, they found it hard. Everyone says, man, I barely thought I would get through. And I think the system is designed for that. I think the system, they will push you to the point where you will fail. And what they're looking for is for you to make a decision not to go that extra step, and for you to put your hand up and say, no, I'm just going back to straight and level flight. And as a fighter pilot, you spend and training a lot of time upside down, all over the place, disoriented. You're not disorientated, but for an average person, you would. And the system pushes you to the point where you're uncomfortable, and what they want to see is that you pull back. And there's another lesson with that translates into life, which is the misnomer that you should get outside your comfort zone to grow. Actually, from a very primal level, if you put yourself outside your comfort zone too much, you're actually going to let fear rule your life. What you want to do is expand your existing comfort zone, and that's very important for leaders, because if you're a leader and you think it's a really good idea to put your team outside their comfort zone to grow, you're actually going to either break them or you lose your respect. So this accelerated learning curve, the first thing you learn on an accelerated learning curve is ultimately every single thing that happens in your life is a direct result of your decisions. There is so what better way to lead than to always take accountability for everything, right? So that's the first.
Yeah.
Then you lead. So that's your self-leadership, and what we're building a new intellectual property stream out of Afterburner, a company I'm the CEO of, that we're calling Flawless Leadership. And there's three elements to flawless leadership. So the first is leading the moment, and leading the moment is all about the decisions you make in the moment, which is all about
Love
you.
it. Yep.
What we also understand as fighter pilots is to lead in the moment, you don't make very good decisions without help. And as you would see in Top Gun and every other movie, and if you can see my hands, you probably can't, I've just put two of them up. We have a wingman. We always have someone following us around, right? Very much like synchronized swimming, we operate as a fluid pair, and we understand that within that role, there's a designated leader and a designated follower, and the follower is the wingman. However, the person that has the most awareness in the moment, and we call that situational awareness, the most awareness of the situation they find themselves in, becomes the leader. And at any point in time, that might be the wingman that will say to the lead, hey, I'm taking the leader, and the lead will say a word called press. So we don't have a vague transition of leadership. We have a crystal clear leadership shift. And why that's important is when you're flying your airplane around and there's no bad guys or nothing, you don't have to do anything. It's easy being a leader. But the minute we start to see bad guys show up on the radar, the minute we have to start to make a commitment to a particular problem to solve, all of a sudden the leader's situational awareness evaporates. And what happens on a mission is we might be going up to the north, and there's a bunch of bad guys, and the lead's doing an amazing job solving that problem, but there's another problem over here that the leader can't see, but the wingman can. And all of a sudden, within a number of seconds, this particular problem, and you can see the parallels I'm drawing to life here, is it's the wingman that gets the leader to disconnect from what we're currently committed to and reconnect to what we need to commit to right now. And we call that the commit criteria. And it's predetermined. It's the leader is the one that makes the decision around what to commit to, and the leader is the one that understands what's going on in the moment. And commit criteria has two sides to it. What do we commit to, and what's our drop criteria? When do we drop something? When do we say no? Okay, so that's leadership. And when you've got that granularity, decisions are really easy because you just say yes, no. I don't have to think about it. And guess what? I can always go back. I can always recommit. We have recommit criteria. So you know, think of that in a day when we look at how do I prioritize as a leader? What's the alligator closest to the boat? Which of my team members is giving me good, valuable situational awareness, and which one's giving me noise? And whilst you don't have to be that precise in how you nominate this, because you don't have to make decisions as a leader in business second by second, you've got like days, hours to make decisions. The concept is important. The concept of understanding when you commit to something, you have to drop something. You can't just keep committing to stuff.
Right. I love where you're going with it, because what I'm hearing you say is that the process of becoming a fighter pilot, although you don't even realize it in the minute, what's actually happening is you're gaining all this leadership, like in the moment, like it's this incubator space to like grab that leadership and practice it in the moment. So everything you talked about, it was about embodying leadership and being able to adjust and move and being able to, what I heard most was not only, yes, I'm a good leader, but I also am a good follower. So I want you to talk a little bit about why it's so important for good leaders to also know when to follow.
Yeah, we talk about that in the book On Time on Target. Leadership and followership are exactly the same thing. Both are in service. That's what's important, right? And there is no supreme leader, not in the West anyway. There is no one operates in a vacuum. There is always a one up, one down, someone to the left, someone to the right. So we operate within that. So a team leader is also a team member, and part of the flawless execution methodology and fighter pilot thinking is because that's the reality. We don't worry about org charts. We don't worry about that. What we do is we create the second tier of leadership, which we call leading outcomes. And leading outcomes is about defining what impact we're trying to make, and then putting the right people, the experts, to solve that problem. And often the leader of that particular mission is the person that understands the impact you're trying to make. So as an organization, let's say you're a large organization, you have product development, you manufacture your product and you sell your product, right? So when it comes to selling a product, most organizations put a team together of just people who sell the product. They forget to bring the product, the developer. Sometimes the product developer's there because that's new, but the poor old product manufacturer, the one that grinds it out every day, is usually left out, right? So we come up with great sales pitches. We understand the trends. We're going to build the stuff. The product development manager like, yeah, we can make that. And then all of a sudden, we find ourselves trying to make this product and it doesn't work. And I use that example because we're currently at Afterburner working with a pharmaceutical company that's probably distributing and selling the world's biggest medication. That is exactly what's happened. And it happens all the time. One of the really cool things about being a fighter pilot is in the military, generally the officers come up with the plan and the enlisted men and women go and fight it. The Air Force is the other way. The officers make the plan and the officers fly the plan. So the leaders create and deliver. So we never get that disconnect as we come up through the organization, where we find ourselves creating unexecutable strategies. And one of the things about leading the outcome is or making an impact is defining the impact, and that has to be the start of the process of leadership. What is it we're trying to achieve, and how do we measure it? Whether we're there, whether we're not there yet. And you've been around leaders for a long time. You've been a leader. What blows me away is how stressed people get about not achieving goals and targets, forgetting the fact that if you start a plan and your goal is in 1 quarter's time, it's not going to be achieved on the second day. There is always a gap. You are not going to achieve the goal for 89 days of the quarter. If you've done a really good plan, you're going to get it on the last. But we ride this in immense amount of stress and 50,000 different ways to do the same thing in this desperate attempt to achieve a goal. Whereas a fighter pilot, hey, we achieve the goal 98% of the time. It's low stress. It's very calm. We don't need to talk. We don't have meetings. We don't have all this chat. In fact, we barely say a word. And somehow we manage to get these incredibly complex outcomes done day in, day out, everywhere around the world within 5 seconds, right? So that's why that's what this flawless leadership model is about.
Sure.
So leading the outcome is about creating the plan that delivers the moments that you can lead in. All right.
Love that.
If we don't define the moments, we don't define the yes, no, we can't lead effectively in the moment. So that's so if leading in the moment is all about doing, leading the outcome is all about the thinking behind it, right? And that's why we have a wingman. We generally understand this concept that we can't do 2 things at once, that I can't multitask, despite those people that go, I'm an amazing multitasker. You're just amazing at getting distracted all the time. Is what you're amazing at.
Yeah, you're just not amazing at any one thing.
Yeah, correct. You're yeah, exactly. You're amazing. You created an amazing illusion.
Yeah.
But what we don't think about is actually multi-thinking, and multi-thinking is the ability to feel, think, and do. And so you cannot do, feel, and think all at once. You can only do. The response to doing something is generally a feeling. So we forget the thinking part. Yeah. And when we're problem solving or thinking, we can't do, which is why when we're on Zoom, paying attention and typing at the same time, we're doing both badly.
Yes.
So that
not connecting.
So the wingman model, for example, that is one pilot is doing, one pilot's thinking. They're clear roles because we understand we can't do both. Most leaders do both. They think that they're doing and being really strategic at the same time. And most of the time you're not.
Yeah, and it leads me to, I read when I was reading about your background, you have this clarity to chaos, or chaos to clarity, or I'm not sure what it is, but talk like that. What I'm hearing you say is that we can't be in the chaos and have the clarity at the same time. And so I would love for you to talk about that and how you've reinvented yourself. You also talk about reinvention. So I'd love you to kind of go down that path.
Yeah, I'll get there through a little bit of a journey, right? So
awesome.
If we have leading in the moment, which is decision-making minute by minute, leading the outcome is decision-making day by day, leading the people is making decisions year by year, right? And leading people is the leadership that most companies invest in. The problem being, you can't be a good leader of people if you're a bad decision maker and you don't know how to build a plan. Because a fundamental part of leadership, a fundamental part of leadership is not just humility, being in service, it's being credible. And you cannot be credible if you're unable to get things done. And we talk about trust there, right? So trust and credibility. The fastest way to build trust is to say you're going to do something, then do it. That's credibility and trust right there. The challenge for leaders, and particularly those aspirational leaders that are always pushing hard, always setting ambitious targets, is no one ever trusts them because they never achieve what they set out to achieve. Okay, so so leading the people, you've got to have the other two, and then the byproduct of that is leading people becomes a little bit easier. But leading people is EQ. It's understanding that the decisions you make are more long-term and more profound. So when we go to my story, so if you go from chaos to clarity, what you're actually saying is start with clarity. The most clarity you can get is just having real simple plans that are impact focused. Then the chaos kind of looks after itself. What happens though, and this is working with thousands of organizations, is much of the chaos is created at the board level. Much of the chaos is created by the leaders. Leaders introduce distract. Leaders interrupt their teams 56 times a day, right? 56
Great
times.
Stat.
That's an Atlassian productivity stat, right? From all of the work that they do with their digital program project execution platforms.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I obviously I don't necessarily believe in reinvention or transformation or change. I just believe that there's evolution, and evolution is slow. But if you bring a fighter pilot mindset, evolution is fast, because we introduce the concept of the steeper learning curve.
Right, right.
So when I had my diagnosis of my autoimmune condition, I knew I was allowed to stay in the Air Force and be a pilot of transport, like flying the president around. Like they offered me that job, right? But I was a fighter pilot, not a pilot. So
Okay. Good. Good differentiation.
Yeah, I wanted to be a pilot beforehand, but once I'd flown fighter jets, it's kind of hard to fly much else, and I still do fly a little bit. But what I had to do was, I was only, I joined when I was 19. I was kicked out at 30. I had plenty of energy. I'm only 30. There's a lot of runway left, so I thought I'd have a go at being an entrepreneur. And I remember just going to back in the day when you read books, that there was a book around. I don't know if you have them in the States, but they're called, Windows for Dummies, Excel for Dummies. There's a whole series, right? And there was a book about your first business for dummies. And I should have left school when I was 18 and joined the Air Force, but I did another year and joined at 19 because I was really bad at school, really terrible at school. And I just found out a few years ago I have like high order ADHD. So I'm very, very poor in structured learning environments, I'm super, super effective when it's very focused and it's stuff that I want to do, right?
Got it.
So point being, I only got about 4 pages into this book, right? There was too many words, not enough pictures. And what it said was a breakout box. And said one of the most important things you do as in a new business is you have to start a business where supply cannot meet demand. And at that point in time, it was just after the Iraq War, after Afghanistan. A lot of rebuilding was going on in that part of the world. And my thoughts were, with my best mate, was, you know what? I bet you they just need all sorts of stuff done over there. So we both hopped on an airplane, moved to Kabul, and started knocking on doors, networking, and before we knew it, we built an enormous business, which is still in business today. It's called CTG Global. So C is me. It's called the Christian Thomas Group. Christian is me. Thomas was my best friend, and the group, which was only 2 of us at the time.
Yeah.
But now it's a huge company, one of the biggest humanitarian projects companies on earth. We sold it about 4 years in. But it doesn't matter what you do. If there is a way of going about learning, a way of having an impact-focused leadership model that fundamentally delivers the life that you want, delivers the results that you want with absolute monotonous regularity. There is no problem you cannot solve. There is no revenue target. Every one of those and the failure to get there is you. And I'm like that. I get in my own way all the time. I am the main reason why I am not Warren Buffett, and I will never be Warren Buffett because I cannot do what he did, which was the ability to sit there every year, go through every single company on Wall Street, and he loved that. That was his passion. So I can't be a Warren Buffett. I can't be a Bitcoin investor because I'm not a gambler. I don't have those genes, right? And I've learned that because I've tried to be all those versions of me on the way through. I can't be the CEO of a $1 billion company. I cannot be one because it is not me. I am the CEO of a company that helps other people. That is me. That's what I did in my humanitarian job. When I was a hotel developer, wasn't me. Publisher, wasn't me. This is me. And
clarity, right? Like clarity.
Absolutely. But did I still have a really great life on the way through? Did I still have fundamental leadership skills? Yeah, absolutely. And for me, what I see in poor leadership is leaders that put themselves first. I mean, and unfortunately, the way that a lot of the corporate, where people tap out in leadership is always the level at which their self-interest becomes evident. That's when your career taps out. And the people that keep going are two versions: a sociopaths and genuine leaders that are in service. Like most leaders, most CEOs, most highly effective leaders in organizations are pretty selfless people. They're pretty cool. They're pretty awesome to be around. And when you're around them, you know, everything they say, everything they do is for the betterment of those around them. The byproduct is they're probably netting 8 to 15 million a year in CEO salary, but they don't need it. It's probably it's mostly sitting in a bank, or it's been invested in a nice, beautiful home. It's been converted into wealth, not money. And I've come across, you know, me personally, but we as a team and Afterburner as well, I've come across some phenomenal people. Yeah, the most NFL coaches of Super Bowl teams are phenomenal. And I think if you know, when you read Lee Iacocca's book and you look at the way that he was the parachute in CEO, but the mess that he made, and those leaders who are parachuting and they just slash everything, jack up the value and leave, and then the companies roll over. You know, it's that self-interested leadership. So yeah, it's a kind of long answer to you know, I think if you always think about other people first, you're a pretty good leader.
Yeah, absolutely. Is that so? Talk to us about your On Time, On Target book. I would love to know more about the book and about, you know, you talk about the difference in those two different kinds of leaders. So how has that affected your leadership style and how you show up over the years as you've kind of taken that on? I mean, I love that you got it right away with the fighter, you know, being the fighter pilot, and that leadership stuff just kind of sunk in right away. But how have you really used that throughout your career to build what you're building?
Well, I never thought about leadership. I still to this day don't really think about what can I do to be a good leader. Why? Because by and large, I haven't really had any issues with leadership or optimizing people, or like when you keep getting what you want, you keep getting out what you achieve.
It works.
People keep hanging around.
Yeah.
People want to be on the team. You don't really think about it, right? So
even
that leadership model, the 3-step, that's, to me, that I only articulated like that this year. I had a penny drop moment about that's it. That's how, because every one of those is a different decision-making framework. And I got to those 3 points because one of the things I really wanted to do was I wanted to learn, like, fundamentally how we make decisions. Like, what is it that and I've got it down to 7 steps, right?
Awesome.
And the reason why decision making is so important is because that is the one thing we all have in common as human beings, and it's the one thing that we can control, and it's the one thing that has the most profound effect on your life.
Power of choice.
But again, there is no formal qualification in decision making. No one teaches you how to make decisions. Except in the world of autopilots. That's exactly what we're taught to do. Is everything we do is designed to allow us to make decisions very quickly, and the way to make decisions very quickly is to have a lot of clarity. And therefore, as a leader, that's your job. If everyone in the company is making good decisions and they're making decisions without your input and they're good, that's great leadership. That is exceptional planning. That is great impact focused planning. So On Time, On Target was when I had to think about this book and giving it a title. I never look at myself and go, hey, what value do I bring to the table? I don't think I bring any, to be honest. I just feel like I'm a normal person, and I don't, you know, when I was talking to some friends of mine about raising some money once, I'm like, man, I don't know why would you back me as a CEO? I don't know. You know, what is it? And they're like, man, just because you say stuff and it happens, you don't quit and you get there. And I started to realize is if you say things and get them done, and then you ask for money to get more things done, people will go, okay, I'll back this because there's a track record. It's not how much revenue did you make or nothing like that at all. It's just you made a decision, you got to get things done. So to me, if you're a leader that it can do things on time and on target, or say we had to put a fighter jet on the cover. You could call the title "Do What You Say" all the time. is what it means. And I co-wrote it with the founder of Afterburner and had an awful lot of fighter pilots contribute to it. A lot of fighter pilots work with a lot of companies. But it's kind of the Bible of bringing fighter pilot mindset and ways of working into the organization. Just rewriting it. It's the next edition's coming out this year. It's just called the Afterburner Effect. And it's a little bit more tech-driven, a little bit more, this was 2015. Everything in here applies exactly, even more so today than any other time. It just doesn't have the words AI in it, or digitization, or automation, generative AI, large language model. So we just updated today's language.
Right.
But that's your job as a leader. Your job is to create destinations that deliver an impact and mentor the team to get there. Not tell them how to get. The more you tell them how to get there, the more it's going to go badly. But to run a framework that allows them to discover for themselves where are we going? How can I do this? Not how do you want me to do this? How can I do it? And then make a commitment back to you as a leader and say, I understand what you want. Here's the tools and resources I have available. Here's the problem I'm trying to solve. Here's how I'm going to go about it. What do you think? Great. And that's my style of leadership. I've never told anyone what to do, ever. It's always like,
that's called empowerment, right? Like we get to empower. I love that.
But a lot of it is lip service to the word. So a leader will say, I'm going to empower my people, which basically means I'm going to tell them what to do, empower them to do it, and then when it doesn't get done, I'm going to get upset at them.
Nope.
So as you know,
like that's the opposite of empowerment.
Correct. But this is what I've learned about the English language, and why we have so much ambiguity in the world, and is so much of what we say can be misinterpreted, which is the problem with the virtual world. The problem with social media is because we don't do things face to face anymore. We can't pick up the body language cues. We can't question in the moment and say, so what did you just say? And therefore, because we make decisions primarily around perceptions, it just sucks in, and subconsciously we start to consume this extreme content and start to form extreme opinions, and the world starts.
And there it is. Beautiful. So the name of the podcast is Your Leadership Legacy. And so I ask every person who's ever on, what legacy is it that Boo is leaving?
I knew you were going to ask me this question, and I'm going to be controversial because I'm an anti-legacy person.
You're an anti what person?
Anti-legacy person. I have an opinion where it's not my job to leave a legacy. I'm not important enough to leave a legacy. I'm just me in my way. For me, so if you took me out, what legacy how would I like to see the world afterwards? Is I would like to see a world where people understand that the decisions they make have an impact. That's a given. But to understand more deeply that the impact they have is also your choice. You are going to impact someone no matter what happens when you make a decision. So how do we err and shift the needle such that those decisions deliver more good, rather than introduce ambiguity? Because a lot of the challenges around trust and a lot of the challenges around the conflict we see in the world today is not a deliberate breach of trust. I mean, a terrorist attack, yes, that's deliberate. But a lot of the things that get us to that point, it's just misunderstanding, not investing in resolving ambiguity. Ambiguity means you make bad decisions. Clarity means you make good decisions. And the more good decisions we make, the more clarity we create, the more good. It's literally the accelerated learning curve of great decision making. So if there was to be a better world after I left, it was that we understood how to make decisions, that we created clarity, and every decision we made brought good to the world.
Boom. Mic drop. I love that. Where can people find you, Boo?
On the beach.
I love that.
On the boat.
You're in Australia, so of course.
Yeah, no, I'm in Miami.
You're in Miami now. That's right.
You can tell from my Miami accent. So callmeboo.com is me. And afterburner.com is the world of fighter pilots. So if anyone feels like they haven't optimized their team, and we are an organism, we are internally, and we're an organism as humans as well. We cannot thrive by ourselves. So if you want to unlock the full potential of your network and your organism that surrounds you, Afterburner, we do that with the fighter pilot mindset and the ways of working.
I love that. Beautiful. I want to thank you for being on the show today. You're amazing. You're incredible. I love the fighter pilot mindset and how you're connecting it with leadership. It's brilliant. So thank you so much for everything who you are in the world, for sure.
Thank you, Tina. I'm very grateful for allowing me into your space today and having this conversation. It was awesome. A lot of fun.
Absolutely. All right, everyone. That concludes this episode. We'll see you next time. Bye. My name is Tina Paulus Krause, and I thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the show. Check out our programs and events at trueyouteams.com. And until next time, make it an amazing day.